All right, so welcome in everyone. Today we're going to be breaking down Bitcoin and its possible rise above 75K. And is that going to happen soon? We'll break it down with a great trader that you guys always love. Of course, my name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Getting into it today is going to be fun. Sorry, I'm out of the studio for this video, but had a remote problem and we are back in here. So we'll cover, of course, Bitcoin, handle a few altcoins and cover some topics around ETH and AVAX. So stick around for the whole show. Of course, today I want to jump in with my trader, which of course is Mr. Tim Warren. Great to have you back.
Absolutely. It's great to be back, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. We're hurricane dodging mostly, but
Good.
other than that, we're
That's
okay.
Yeah, for the most part,
Tim,
same up here up in Atlanta. Like we got a little bit of Helene, but where I am, no flooding, we lost power for about 12 hours. That's about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Listen, let's stay on the topic of Bitcoin because Bitcoin, of course, is in a nice position right now. I want to play on a couple of things. I want to show you a couple of tweets right here. I want to jump over to this first one, which is really kind of getting into the issue of de-dollarization. We've talked about this quite a bit on the show. BRICS planning to use digital currencies now for investments. And they go on a little bit further. If you look at where it has been over the last year, the potential for de-dollarization has been very, very consistent. So I anticipate we're going to see a lot more activity here, which could drive Bitcoin a little bit further. And then if you compare, Tim, what's happening right now with gold and Bitcoin. Gold, of course, as you guys can see here on the chart, an absolute skyrocket going up. So there's a lot happening with the gold play versus Bitcoin, but Bitcoin, of course, not necessarily moving. When you look at your chart right now, Tim, is this something that you feel is primed for a breakout because it's been bumping into the 70K range and is not necessarily breaking through?
No, it's actually a big breakout I think is coming here, Paul. And I want to get back to the de-dollarization thing in a second, but I think just because we're talking about it, let's look at the chart. The big breakout that's happening right now is there was actually a falling broadening wedge on Bitcoin. I got a lot of lines going on here. Let me actually clear these up for everybody. These are unneeded at the moment. The red and green line I have here, it's a channel, but it's technically broadening. So it makes the breakout prediction a little bit more complicated. You're going to have different traders going with different levels. I'll show both of them. But either way, what people need to be aware of is this red line. It has been resistant since the all-time high back in March. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the other day, 6 touches of that red line. But today, if this continues and we close around or higher than we currently are, it will be the first big sign of a major breakout. For confirmation, you don't just want to close a daily candle above that red line. We want to open and close tomorrow as well. So that will be our confirmation of a bigger move. But going back to the two different possible scenarios, there's going to be some people, Paul, who go back just to the opening of the formation and say this is simply a trading channel. They're going to be looking for a big breakout over the next couple of weeks, closer to $84,000, $85,000. But if you want to get really aggressive with it, with a broadening wedge, if people treat it that way, what some people are actually going to do is they're going to come to this big breakout that we had, this big move back in July and early August, and that would be the breakout predictor. This is now referencing a $96,000 to $97,000 move for Bitcoin. Of course, that's just one leg of the next bull market. I'm a big believer that it'll go a lot higher than that. But from this formation alone, that's what we're looking at. Then you kind of zoom out and you start to say, all right, well, what about would this potentially be considered a bull flag opportunity with that channel attached to a major rally since back in September of 2023? Well, this changes it with a much greater price prediction for Bitcoin over the next couple of, I would say, since this took from September until March, that's a roughly, what is that, about 6-month period, 5-6 month period. It would take at least 5 to 6 months to do it again. But now all of a sudden, we're talking about $152,000 on Bitcoin. So a lot of different things popping right now to suggest that Bitcoin is going to repeat. And I know you brought up the gold chart. I actually brought it up myself. I'll say this. I think that Bitcoin's going to look something like this, right? So a lot of people right now are going to get away with saying, oh, look at what look what gold did, and let's take that same fractal and apply it to Bitcoin. The problem is, while I think this is actually going to happen, I am a not a big believer in fractals, which is where you take a price movement of another asset or the same asset in a different time frame and say we're going to match it tit for tat. First of
Right.
all, it's hard enough, even if I were to take a fractal from a previous Bitcoin price chart, but to take it from another chart altogether, all of a sudden you're really starting to dance with, well, what's the different situations and why did one coin or one asset's movement predict that another asset's going to move the same way? This is the same type of what I would call illogical fallacies that a lot of the perma bears right now are using. We've been watching, and I don't want to say any names because even the ones that I'm referencing, I respect very much so, but you see these analysts sometimes compare the dot-com bubble to Bitcoin, and they're trying to predict this major crash. But it's not the same thing. The circumstances are different. The assets are different. What's happening is different. But that's the same logic when you take a fractal from a different asset and try to fit Bitcoin into that box. A lot of times it's going to be like trying to put a square through a triangle peg, and it's just not the right way to do it. That being said, coincidentally, I do think that we're going to see a repeat. I do think Bitcoin's about to rally, but I don't think it's because of the gold fractal. I think it's because Bitcoin over the last 6-7 months has been gearing up, moving sideways, slightly down in a slow down, get the retail investor out, get them confused. And now this institutional bull market, I've been calling for it for a while now. This is the one, institutions coming big. They now can buy these dips. They now can make all the money. This was the plan the entire time, and it's working to perfection.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that have kind of been indicating that. You've got this story right here, which is Pompliano talking about some catalysts going into this bull run. One of the things he hits on, of course, is the Fed's 50 basis points cut we just saw last month. Likelihood is we're going to see 2 cuts in a row that will give us a full point coming off interest, which will have some effect on the market, even though we're still seeing a little bit of a stickiness around inflation. He also hits on a couple other things here. Says, the trend is expected to continue regardless of the outcome of the presidential election. That to me is the strength, I think, when it comes to, where the market is right now and what its potential could be, which is the potential for really 2025 to be a raging bull market going into this. Beyond Bitcoin, if you look at what's happening with Ethereum, there's a couple of stories I wanted to hit on. This is the story from which was a little bit of a downgrade on ETH in general from a fairly significant, what I thought was an overinflated prediction at 22K. They, of course, backed that down to around 7,300 right now. A couple of points they hit on, reflecting almost a 67% drop. But some of the key things have been everything around the ETH ecosystem, what we've seen with Uniswap going uni-chain, which of course has been one of the big catalysts within the ETH ecosystem. You look at that, and then 2 other points that I want to hit on before we take a look at the chart. One, of course, is now we have the ETH OS, which is the operating system for a mobile device. We've had the guys on to talk about this before, but this, of course, is the device that they're talking about. I'm going to kind of scan around this so you guys can see what it looks like. And then there's one of the tweets to kind of show the scale of size. This could be a pretty big deal. We're going to do a full video on this, but I wanted to get your opinion on where you think this pushes ETH right now in terms of the chart itself.
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying I think that VanEck, is trying their hardest to pinpoint based off of a current trend where they think price is going to go. I think it's a mistake for people to look at certain periods of time and look at either extreme success of a project or maybe what they would perceive as failure and say, I'm going to dictate what the future looks like. The other thing, and I'm sure you covered it, Paul, because you do a great job of finding all of the relevant information people need to know about. But remember, we're about a week removed from BlackRock and Larry Fink coming out with amazing bullish potential, what Ethereum can do, pretty much saying, hey guys, Ethereum hasn't even scratched the surface of what it's capable of doing in the future. And also remember, while it's not been necessarily considered a success at this point, Ethereum is the only other crypto project aside from Bitcoin that has an ETF, a spot ETF at the moment. That is a big catalyst for bringing in institutional money. And with people like Larry Fink saying that the opportunities are borderline endless, I am
Mhm.
still extremely bullish on Ethereum. I put out a price prediction video a couple of weeks ago. Even going back to what we were just talking about with the election, I'm in camp. No matter who wins, Bitcoin and crypto will go up at least for a couple months. But there is a scenario, and I think this is the more likely scenario if Kamala Harris ends up winning presidency, that we rally after the presidential election. But there's a chance that an earlier recession comes in, maybe around
Mhm.
Q2 of 2025, in which case we have an early top. And I actually pinpointed Ethereum going to be somewhere in that range of 7,000 to 10,000. I lean closer towards 10,000 because I'm a little bit of a, I want to see things do well. I think things will go well as the bull market starts heating up. But if that's the case, then VanEck probably is onto something about this bull market top around 7,200. Yeah. If the 4-year cycle stays intact, I still see Ethereum getting back up to around a 20% dominance of the entire crypto space. I see the total crypto market cap being somewhere around $11 trillion. That's going to be good enough to give Ethereum something in the range of $18,000 to $20,000 per coin. And then in a scenario where Donald Trump wins presidency and he's able to get the economy back on track, able to tackle some of the national debt to stave off a major recession, what people are not taking into account that much right now is the 4-year cycle, Paul. We in crypto have been following this 4-year cycle, but let's really analyze what the 4-year cycle is. From 2009 to 2013, we noticed the top happened 4 years after creation. That's nothing. That's just a detail. From 2013 to 2017, we noticed, oh, look at that, a coincidence. It seems like 4 years separated the tops twice in a row. That's kind of cool. In 2021, that was the first time that we could officially call the 4-year cycle a pattern. It was the third time it happened. Well, patterns are great, but if we were right about the institutional market, meaning this is going to be mostly driven by institutions, what are institutions notorious for? For lying or manipulating or changing the program so that retail investors do not guess the bottoms or the tops. Well, right now, retail seems so overly confident about a 4-year cycle continuing into like October, November area of 2025. I'm kind of in camp. Either we end early with a Kamala Harris presidency or late with a Donald Trump presidency, in which case we could go into 2026. I think that crypto could be closer to $20 trillion market cap, and Ethereum is going to shock people. I'm going to get a lot of comments in your section saying I'm a permabull, I'm a hopium. But if the math checks out that if Ethereum keeps around an 18 to 20% dominance, which is normal for tops of bull markets. If crypto goes to $20 trillion, that's a $30,000 Ethereum if we extend into late 2026. So there's still a lot of chances out there.
If that were the case, though, Tim, I mean, let's look at it right now. You're talking about a 10x market cap increase because you're around 2.2 right now, 2.2 trillion. That's a significant. We've never had a bull run that has done a 10x market cap shift, have we? I haven't looked back at the market cap moves, but I don't think there's been a 10x. But again, there hasn't been the kind of political conditions either.
So when you're saying a 10x from the bottom of it, you're absolutely right. But I also would make the argument we've never seen this level of institutional money that's coming in.
Well,
and it's not just the institutions joining the train of saying, "Oh, these are good investments." I think we're Paul just now, and we're just scratching the surface, but we're just now really getting into the real details of what blockchain technology is possible. Up to this point, it was mostly just this cool internet money that people were investing in, and you saw the future, but you weren't living in the future. Well, what these institutions coming in are confirming is this isn't just a dream. This isn't just a, hey, what if? This is no, this works. This is the most updated technology that we've ever seen, not only for not only for money, but also for how documents are formed with the smart contracts for security and privacy. Blockchain technology is an emerging technology, and the institutions, they're going to get on the early side of it, but they're not going to get in without some form of a promise this is going to be a big deal. To me, I don't actually think it's that crazy to think this is going to be the greatest market cap increase we've ever seen. I think even Larry Fink talked about this as well a couple of weeks ago, where he pretty much said, a lot of investors missed out back in the 70s when I think it was the internet first came out. And then they missed out in the 80s when the cell phone came out. They're not going to make the same mistake again. I think a lot of institutional players are going to go in big, and we're going to see major money moving into the space.
Well, the key there, of course, is the market adoption, I think, of mainstream, which usually happens after that bell curve, because we are in these early stages. I think anybody watching our show today, by the way, If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure and just click the subscribe link down below and get in, because you're early to the market. You're early to what's happening around blockchain Web3, which we'll see more of. The other thing I want to hit on, of course, with Ethereum, I would agree with you, is talk a little bit about SUI. And just to give an example, this is SUI's price continuing to hold a very strengthening position. I want to look at your chart in a second here, Tim. A couple of points within this. You look at this overall, now the price is about 12% away from its high. It's also hit another major milestone, surpassing 6 billion in transactions, where Solana's kind of been going a little bit on the sideways. We haven't seen this kind of upside track on SUI. What about your chart? What does it show for SUI right now?
Yeah, I've been tracking SUI here for a little bit. I missed this top. I thought there was a chance we were going to top out, double top around the same level we had on October 7th here, around $2.18. But with us climbing up our next target, we actually shorted SUI in our community up here when we hit the red line again. This is a rising level of resistance, a rising level of support. This is a rising, broadening wedge. It's one that traditionally this formation ends up breaking somewhat to the downside. So I'm going to be watching to see if we lose the blue line. But this is when I have a sneaky suspicion, especially in the crypto world. A lot of times these formations will develop and traditional technical analysts will go ahead and short it and look for a big breakout to the downside, but the traders will make it move to the upside. I have a sneaky suspicion that SUI is going to not break out majorly downside. It's going to continue. It's one of the hottest altcoins right now, and I think for very good reason. That being said, I saw on that article, they're kind of looking for maybe a move back up to 236, which is absolutely doable. And if you're tracking what's happening with Bitcoin, it would make sense. My only problem with SUI right now is it rose so fast, so hard that correcting seems like the right thing to do. This right here is the oscillator matrix on Luxalgo, and you can see since back here in September on the 25th, we've been putting in these lower highs on the oscillator. Our money flow had risen extremely high. We had excessive buyers in the space, but those are all now gone, and we have a red reversal dot. This is just confirmation after confirmation after confirmation that the bulls were really in control, but every single boost they made, it's a little bit running out of steam. And traditionally, when you see those signals, one of my favorite trading strategies is to revisit what we call a smart trail from Luxalgo, and we have not done that, despite the fact that we have major bearish divergence, reversals in play, excessive buyers now leaving. The money is actually leaving here a little bit. I've been looking for a move back down here below $2, coming in closer towards 190. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe the momentum and the hype is just so crazy high right now that it's not going to happen, but it's very rare. And we've been tracking this strategy for a while. Very rare to get these levels of sell signals and not at least revisit to touch this smart trail right now. So I just want people being prepared. SUI right now, I think, is overvaluated. Not saying it won't go higher. I have a much larger price prediction that I haven't officially given, but it's going to be a lot higher than just $2. Trust me. So that being said, right now it's overextended. Good.
Yeah. So you're right now, you shorted it here recently. Would you stay on this short?
Well, we exited our short when we saw a little bit of bounce, but a longer term short, I have more confidence right now in a revisit to about 180, 190 than I do about setting a new high in the next couple of days. Bitcoin could change that, right? Bitcoin, as it starts to take off, it's the biggest impact. But what people should also be aware of is, if I'll go back to my chart again, take a look at the time period that SUI's been going crazy here. It's been going crazy during a long time period when Bitcoin was continuing to move downwards and sideways. So people always want to say, well, everything's just going to follow Bitcoin to the T. And that's not a terrible trading strategy whatsoever. But when you see something trading inverse ways, a lot of times you're going to see when they reverse. In this case, Bitcoin was moving down, SUI was moving up. Bitcoin moving up now exponentially. You could see SUI start to take a little bit of a cool off because, again, not because because SUI is a bad product and not because the bull market's over for it, but because it just rallies so fast, so aggressively. Yeah. Cool offs and lower highs, or higher lows, are a part of a bull trend, and it's healthy. SUI needs a healthy correction to maintain this level of bullishness.
Interesting. Well, we're going to watch this one closely because it has been one that has been showing up on our sentiment charts for quite a bit of time. and it continues to push hard. But it's back and forth. We're finding, much like what you're seeing, Tim, is these indicators that show a little bit of weakness. The real question is, does it do it? And the question I think will be is, does SUI start to maybe do something strategically as a project to kind of get their name back in the front of crypto news? One other thing that's hitting, of course, is Avalanche. Avalanche ended their summit. You've got the summit wrapping up, a lot of things announced there. And I think the key with Avalanche is, one, the ecosystem is continuing to get very strong. They had a lot of developments with Core, which is their wallet, a lot of work around the culture side of where Avalanche is going. And of course, the gaming side of AVAX is a huge one. Speaking of that, you have to consider, Off the Grid, which has had just a huge win over the last couple of weeks with their early release, I should say. With all that being the case, with Avalanche and with what's happening out there right now, do you like AVAX? Because it did not move much during the summit, which I thought it would probably see some pretty significant moves, but it has been still a little bit sideways. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is one our community is bullish on right now. We're actually tracking on the weekly chart. I just showed everybody on SUI what the bearish call would be, what a short. Well, the exact opposite's happening here. MACD has flipped bullish here more recently, last couple of weeks. The RSI is heading back up. But my super indicator, my super trade setup is the green reversal, now saying we should move to the upside. The oscillators printing these green dots saying we're moving to the upside, and now positive money flow. Well, it's the exact opposite. You look for a move and a breakout up into the smart trail, the red smart trail this time, the resistance one, and you pair that with the fact that right now, if you take a look, we're in a falling wedge pattern. We just broke out over the last about a month and a half ago. We broke out above the resistance of that resistance level of this falling wedge pattern. That calls for a breakout back up here to $37. So it pairs up. We have a little bit of confluence indicating, I think that it wouldn't be crazy to see by early to mid-November, the price of AVAX at least make its way back up here towards $37. Then it's about kind of evaluating after that what goes even higher. But that's kind of my window. That's what our community's been looking at for a longer-term trade on AVAX. And so far, again, we kind of triggered this back up in here, and we bounced and hit support back on August 12th. So far, if you zoom in, we have this rising trend line of support that's been holding up. Let me turn that off because that's a little bit of noise right there. Rising level support that's holding up very, very well. I think even though we put in a slight lower high right here, I still am tracking a move up there to 37 before we have, maybe a little bit of a cool off just as it regroups, resets, and then gets ready for the next big run. Very, very bullish on AVAX over this bull market.
All right, let's take a look at XRP. Here's Stuart Alderati. A couple of points hitting on this. I think when you look at XRP and kind of this start-stop situation with the SEC, one thing that is happening right now is, as you can kind of see here, they've got a Form C is set to be filed from Ripple next week, which of course will give us a little bit more clarity on this. It's still kind of up in the air. I know there was some reports on this in terms of that the SEC had forgot to file. That's not necessarily the case. And we kind of explained this a little bit yesterday. But with that, and XRP Summit is over. A lot of things they announced at Ripple Swell. We had a chance to do some videos there. If you guys go back and check some of those videos out. But what do you think? XRP makes a move on this run or still stays a bit lethargic?
The XRP conversation is a crazy one. Obviously, the amount of suppression that has happened has been ridiculous. I'll give you my personal opinion that it's not going to have a lot of statistics or charts for, but I don't think XRP is going to be as bullish as some people kind of promised us a while ago. I mean, there's still people out there probably waiting for a $20 to $40 XRP. Of course, there's the crazies out there that think $420 or whatever is possible. That's not doable. $20 is not crazy, but I just don't think that XRP is going to have the steam and momentum they need in this bull market to get there. With that said, XRP is still going to be used. It still is a coin that institutions will resonate with. So it makes me wonder on that conspiracy theory side, is XRP going to have a pop that's amazing? And potentially, again, I still have it potentially hitting new all-time highs, barely at least. but retail's giving up. I mean, it's not, there was a time there, Paul, where if you were bullish on XRP, everybody seemed to love you, right? There were a couple haters out there, but now it's a very unpopular position to continue to hold faith in XRP because of what the charts look like. And I'm a chart guy, like I'm a trader. It's hard to defend the charts, but there's just this inkling inside of me, based off the fundamentals of it, based off the relationships that they still have. I think people are going to, some be pleasantly surprised and others, disappointed that they got out too early before a major pop. Again, I think $5 to $6 for XRP is still extremely doable. And there's a level of me that's saying, you know what? I think this continued suppression is, again, something I talked about earlier, the institutional movement to suppress it, get retail out of it, convince retail it's a dead project. And then when it pumps, retail investors don't make gains. Only the newer investors, the institutions that already have the billions and the trillions, they're the ones that get to make some money. I had this gut feeling, Paul, that's going to happen. And there's going to be a lot of disappointed people who sold a little too early.
That'll be a sad thing if that does occur, because there has been a huge community in that area of where XRP and Ripple have been able to forge over the last few years for right reasons. I mean, it's kind of everybody, when you're fighting against the Goliath, everybody kind of teams up together there. So interesting stuff right now. Listen, if you guys have not checked out Tim's channel, just go over to YouTube and check out Investing Bros. He does a great job there. And of course, I think one of the better traders out there, which is why we have him on the channel here every other week with Evan and, of course, Trading Parrot as our roster of great traders. So, Tim, as usual, thanks again for jumping on the call today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You bet.
Take care, Paul.
You bet. All right, so you guys make sure you're tuned in here to the Diamond Circle. That's our own private group where we do a lot of additional content, some of our own trading tips, and also my own personal portfolio gets revealed over there as well. So make sure and check that out. It's a link down below. And of course, follow me out there on X, @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.